Hello, this is Dr. Harriet Fraad on Capitalism Hits Home, an interpersonal update. This is a show about the intersection of capitalism, class, and our personal lives. And today, I'm talking about a development in U.S. predatory capitalism with its underfunding of education, its starving of the universities, and its shift of expenses onto the hands of the mass of people and off of the shoulders and hands of the corporations and the wealthy. I'm talking about a new development which combines capitalism, sex, gender, and relationships. It's the sugar arrangements industry. The sugar industry, or sugar arrangements, have mushroomed in the United States in tandem with the mushrooming costs of higher education and the shift of the tax burden onto the mass of people. Without a college degree, young people face a wall in employment and future opportunities. For almost all Americans, a college degree, though, comes with a very heavy debt. College debt now outstrips credit card debt in the United States. College students own $1 trillion in debt, double what they did 10 years ago. The average U.S. student carries over $37,000 in student loan debt and takes 20 years to pay off that debt. Enter the sugar arrangements industry, where young women and some, though many fewer, young men enter an arrangement with a wealthy sugar daddy. The sugar daddy may pay tuition, credit card bills, or anything that the sugar daddy and the sugar baby agree on. I'll use the pronoun she because the overwhelming mass of sugar babies are women. The sugar baby serves her sugar daddy when he comes to town or whenever their mutually arranged contract specifies. Their paid arrangements can include sex or not. The sugar baby arrangements sites never mention sex and disavow sex because then they would be closed. But sex is a real presence in sugar baby and daddy arrangements. They usually include sex. After the two of them agree on what they want, they set a payment. The average payment is between $2,000 and $4,000 a month. After the initial agreement on payment and everything else, the payment part is never again discussed unless one of them needs to change it. Part of the reason for that is to sustain the sugar daddy's arrangement, an idea that he is in an utterly voluntary arrangement, that he is chosen for his personal qualities as in another kind of relationship that doesn't include any money. The two of them agree on what they want to discuss, the range of discussions they have, what they want in the other, the demands they have emotionally and for time. In this way, this is a much more direct relationship than voluntary relationships have among men and women. A sugar baby usually provides the most popular item in any sex industry, and that's the GFE, the girlfriend experience, that meets men's needs for companionship and fights men's loneliness, as well as providing sex sometimes. The sugar daddy gets an intelligent, attractive young woman to enjoy for himself or present to colleagues, to take to conferences where he'll get extra kudos for appearing with a young, attractive, articulate woman who is a perk of his male power. At the same time, he frees himself from trying to navigate the demands of a changing gender landscape that he might fear. Whether he can make a move, if he can, what he can say, what he can't. This escape is a lot easier for rich men because often rich men confuse themselves with their money, so they think of themselves as giving when they're giving money. They think of themselves as giving emotionally, even when they're not. A sugar arrangement may also reassure a married man that he can escape his marriage whenever he wants to and not have an angry woman calling his house and accusing him. The baby caters to her daddy's preferences and needs, and in exchange can escape 18 to 20 years of debt peonage. She also enters a relationship without possessive jealousy and rage that could accompany a usual male-female relationship. The terms are clear. Either party can stop the arrangement at their request. Unless both parties deceive themselves, they lose the joy of being freely chosen as human beings. Their intimate connection becomes another transactional affair. At the same time, now that in today's capitalism, jobs colonize a lot of our personal time, sugar babies' personal and sexual lives are commingled in the job of being a sugar baby and within a capitalist transaction. In the words of a feminist professor, Dr. Drew Barker, sugar arrangements naturalize the wealth and income disparity between men and women. Ultimately, these relationships reinforce the patriarchy or the framework in which men hold power over women. I don't know if I agree with her because both parties have some power here. The sugar arrangement site also puts women in conflict with American society that can't refrain from stigmatizing people who engage in sex work. For example, although sugar arrangements may take quite a bit of time for a sugar baby, they can't be included on one's resume. As is so often the case in the society, the stigma of being in the sugar industry is held by women. Women need to protect themselves with added security. They keep these arrangements private. If the financial assistance, should we call it, is revealed, the career that the sugar baby is trying to qualify herself for and trying to protect could be jeopardized. A large number of schools with numerous sugar babies are in big state universities, and you might wonder why. Those cost less than private universities. They have lower tuition. However, they attract people with less money, and their tuition rates, the tuition rates at state schools, have risen even faster than private tuition rates. They cater to students that need financial assistance. Nonetheless, the college which has the greatest number of sugar babies in the United States is New York's own NYU, New York University. New York City is very expensive to live in, and the cost of tuition at NYU is $51,828, almost $52,000 a year. If you include room and board, it costs $69,984, or just about $70,000 for the 2018 to 19 academic year. And don't forget, the academic year is a lot shorter because there's the summer vacation for a couple of months and long vacations for Christmas and midwinter and President's Day and so on. When you think about it, that's more than the median real wage in America, the real wage being what your salary could actually buy, which is $31,099. Imagine trying to repay a loan for 4 years at NYU, which will cost you $280,000, while working at the median real wage, or even the lower median wages for women. Bear in mind also that now women hold 2/3 of college debt, because women are the majority of students in college and graduate school, not in the STEM fields, science, engineering, technology, and math, but in colleges altogether. Although the greatest debt held by college students is in the Midwest and the Northeast, the fastest growth area for sugar babies are in the South, the Bible Belt of America. Now, what is the relationship between the Bible Belt, the stronger presence of the evangelical community, and sugar babies? Well, in order to explain that, I look at the fact that in spite of the evangelicals' moral and sexual purity crusades, their community overwhelmingly endorses Trump, a 3 times married philanderer with 22 accusations of sexual misconduct against him. He's bragged about grabbing pussy, certainly not what's touted as Christian morality. Southern evangelical women may be increasingly aware of the hypocrisy of their church's moral strictures. They may also be aware that their church's new hero, Donald Trump, routinely brags about his money while he monetizes the presidency. Southern sugar babies may notice that many fellow and sister Americans seem to excuse every excess of the rich. So the morality of the righteous poverty that they could enter as they pay off their college debt may seem stupid. The worship of money, of course, is not restricted to the South. It's an all-American phenomenon, as the sugar industry is. 3.25 Americans are in the sugar industry, which is located primarily in the United States, not exclusively, but primarily. However, the religion-heavy South may have still another reason, as women in the South are more attracted to sugar arrangements. 7 of the top 10 schools with the most sugar babies are in the South, because the evangelical South is a location where a young woman's sex can be touted as the most precious emblem of her value as a virgin. Her sexuality is the center of a huge effort and attention. Evangelical purity cults create ceremonies where a young woman swears to keep her virginity until she's married, accompanied by her father in this swearing-in ceremony, and she wears a purity ring to wait. Her sexuality is affirmed in such ceremonies. Actually, also, monetizing may be a lot closer to the real religion of America than Christianity is. The sugar industry also offers women a chance to reverse our gender disadvantage. Economically, U.S. women make between 78 and 83% of the male dollar, unless they're mothers. Mothers make 70% less than other women. Altogether, 70% of the male dollar. Sex work is the only area of the economy where women earn more than men. And here, the sugar arrangements industry is no exception. The fact that women hold 2/3 of America's trillion-dollar student debt and now have a chance to change or cancel that debt without being in the pornography industry or formal prostitution is a huge incentive, particularly in the evangelical South, where women's sexuality can be equated to their virtue and a central asset. No wonder the Southern women are most drawn to it. Now, what else is happening that would lead to the popularity of sugar arrangements in the United States? Well, there are big changes in sexual mores, gender expectations and practices, and economic possibilities for young Americans. One is a radical shift in dating and relationships. Another is a radical shift in marriage and family. And the third is a radical shift in sexual relationships. Recession and economic transformation has powerful effects in all of those areas of personal life, as well as the ones in political and economic life. In order to understand what's happening here that would enhance the possibilities of the sugar industry, let's look at the general jobs picture. Long-term unemployment for young people aged 25 to 34 years old is 3.5 times greater than it was in 2007, before the recession. There's an estimated 15% youth unemployment rate. College graduates who have better chances than those without college education are fighting for their personal, financial, and employment futures, and all of those futures are connected. Many employers require 3 years' experience for decent jobs. 22-year-old graduates don't have 3 years' experience. If they sign on as interns to get that experience, they'll be underpaid or not paid at all. College students are deeply in debt, as I said before. And this has changed radically. In 2004, national student debt was $250 million. Now national student debt in the U.S. is over $1 trillion. Estimates of the time that debt can be repaid by most college borrowers is around 20 years. One feature of the jobs young people get is precarity. Young Americans have lost the protection that the union movement won. They've lost the 8-hour day. They've lost time and a half for overtime, and they've lost job security. Here are a few examples from my own practice. A client of mine who's a designer in advertising works late nights and weekends, wherever and whenever his boss needs him, because he needs the job. There are no boundaries. Cell phone calls can summon him until about 10 o'clock at night. Nations like France have laws called the right to disconnect that limits the time that employers can call after work. We don't have those laws. We don't have an organized population. A client of mine in finance works from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. except when reports are due. During that time, she works late into the night and on weekends. When she's not working, she's often exhausted and has very little energy to get to know someone. She can't plan for much time outside of work during the week and on some weekends, except for a beer later at night with the colleagues she works for. The jobs that young people get are precarious, and they know that if they refuse the demands on them, they will be replaced by another young person. Within that environment, dating, relationships, and marriage have all changed in ways that enable sugar arrangements. Also, sexual mores have changed. Premarital sex, which was condemned in the 60s and 70s, even though it was practiced, it was condemned. It's now universally practiced. Clients from the fundamentalist South report smiling as they have sex with their purity rings on. New birth control methods that are long-lasting, in addition to the pill, whether they're intrauterine devices or long-term shots, can lessen the terror of pregnancy that kept women from having sex outside of marriage. In 1965, the birth control pill was finally legalized, but only for married women, not that they put controls in. It wasn't until 2000 that women won the right to have insurance covering the birth control pill. And that insurance coverage was recently challenged during the Trump administration, where they tried to get across that insurance doesn't have to pay if the insurer has a moral objection to birth control. Luckily, that was defeated. Now that men and women both have permission to be sexual, there are over 50 dating apps, and they welcome requests for casual sex as well as longer-term relationships. The changed atmosphere reduces the fear and the social condemnation of sex and the sugar industry. Relationships have also transformed in ways that facilitate sugar arrangements. Relationships are precarious. The future is uncertain. Thinking of settling down doesn't make sense like it did when America provided opportunities for young people, or at least white young men, to earn decent family wages. In 1970, the U.S. population was 87.7, almost 88% white. In 1970, fully 80% of 18 to 34-year-olds were married. They could actually live a middle-class life on the family wages paid to the white male head of household. That's changed. Now only 28% of 18 to 34-year-old Americans are married. What's the point? Marriage is now a luxury good. People refusing marriage are overwhelmingly working-class and middle-class women. The whole deal of a stable, predictable male wage that supported families and allowed a future, that's gone. Traditional gender roles for whites, the vast majority, used to be built on male providers that earned a family wage so that women and children could depend on that wage. They may have been trapped, but that was a dependable source. Traditional marriages could be suffocating for men, trapped for life as providers for household dependents, and women who they may not even like, no less love. And for women, trapped in housework, childcare, sexual and emotional services, and total financial dependency on a man that they may not even like, no less love. Those marriages could be stifling. The popular jokes of the time say a lot about the quality of those marriages. The joke for a woman was, men are like linoleum. You lay them right once, you can walk on them for 15 years. Men's jokes were jokes like, there's a handy little thing called a wife. You screw it on the bed, and it does all your housework. Those marriages may have been emotionally alienated and miserable, but they were stable. The divorce rate in 1970 was 30%. Now it's between 42 and 50% for first marriages, 60% for second marriages and 70% for third marriages, and the mass of young people don't marry in the first place. So marriage is basically over for the mass of Americans. We women had a women's movement to help us expand out of the house into the world of paid work. Men have had no help and are clearly divided into two groups. One kind of man wants a communal, egalitarian marriage of equals where both work outside the home and inside the home, sharing income, sharing childcare, sharing household help, sharing equal sexual relationships, and sharing support for one another as people. A second kind of man wants traditional labor out of women, even though he can no longer provide for them. He wants sex on demand, entertainment, and other things from women, to be continued. Thank you for listening. This episode has been brought to you by Democracy at Work. Please support our work. Visit our website at democracyatwork.info.